Did the first part, the second part. Now we're gonna go for 3 for 3. So, what's rule number 1 in Hermeticism? Us above, so below. Yeah. As within, so without. Yeah. Okay. So with that established, you gotta realize that the one thing that celestially represents consciousness, or the light of God, or God itself. Yeah, that's why the ancients, the Egyptians, the Masons, they all worship the sun, because they know that it's the kind of closest thing to the I am in this dimension. Is the closest thing to it, really. Yeah, there's nothing else. There's nothing more kind of closer to the real eye of consciousness than the sun. You can argue with whoever you like. Now, based on the first rule of the first principle in Hermeticism, we realize that the sun rises and sets, yeah? And it goes through a cycle daily and also goes through a cycle yearly. Those words don't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. Essentially, it means that the sun appears every day to rise, where it's not very strong. Then it peaks midday or whatever, gets strong. Then it starts to lose power. It's almost like a waxing and waning, yeah? Losing power until it actually disappears. Then the cycle happens again. And the cycle also happens in what we call a year, i.e. it starts from one point in the sky and it does a circuit and it returns back to that point over a set number of days, which we call a year. Which means that the cycle runs in 2 ways. It runs on a micro level and a macro level, yeah? So if us above, so below, then that means we also experience the very same thing. Any questions? Okay, good. We also wake up every day. When we wake up, we're not at our strongest. And as the day kind of like wears on, we pick up energy and we use our energy to do whatever. And there are moments in the day where we feel like we're full of energy compared to when we woke up. Then that energy starts to sort of like reduce until bedtime, yeah, till we go to bed. Then we disappear from this place. Any questions? Good. So the very same cycle that the sun takes during the day, we also take during the day. So you can't argue with me when I tell you that you are in lockstep with the sun, and the sun going through the houses is you going through the houses. Yeah? It almost appears as a reflection, but it's not a reflection. It's as above, so below. Yeah, you're kind of one and the same thing. So your reflection is out and the thing's also reflecting in. Good. Then there's also the macro cycle, which is you are born. And when you're born, you're at your weakest. Then you grow. Then you peak. Yeah. We actually use that word in our everyday speech and we say, oh yeah, he's reached his peak or she's reached her peak, right, of maturity. Then we start to lose energy until we get to our old age and then we die. We leave this place. So we also have the very same 2 cycles that the sun runs. Any questions? So I've showed you in part 1 that the board game, what the board game is like, yeah? Consciousness is using archetypes and configurations to experience the world of physicality, yeah? We are the avatar and the dice. I've showed you unequivocally is there. Then the second part, I showed you that we have a story, a kind of like a hero, yeah, or a myth, yeah, an avatar called Jesus Christ, which represents consciousness in an enlightened, actualized form. And his journey, his 2 journeys, yeah, one from birth to death, yeah, and the other journey is his kind of condensed journey from when his last journey, if you like, to ascension. And again, he also went through the same cycles. Cool. And now I'm showing you that you and the sun are actually in lockstep on the micro and the macro level. So when I speak and I say that we are the sons of God in physical form, we are the configurations of God, we are the avatars of God, animated by God itself in physical form. Because without physicality, there is no shadow. Yeah? And I'm telling you that I've showed you in 3 ways that can't be argued with in any way, shape, or form on God's green earth. Bring whoever you like. Bring a multitude, in fact. You're still going to lose. Facts are facts, bro. So I've just gone 3 for 3 on 3 of 3. Done. Third part, the third, because I said I was going to go 3 for 3 on the 3 of 3. The third part is, I'm just going to talk a little bit about, because, okay, so the first part we spoke about the sun and its path and how that is actually the path through the ecliptic, which is actually you and your journey through the ecliptic, as an archetype and configuration, a manifestation of the creative energy of God in physical form, going through the board game, as it were. Yeah. The cycle of birth, initiation, you know, maturity, and what you call it, death to the ego or flesh, and ascension. Yeah, that's the game, that's the board. And then you loop around, and once it's not just, I mean, day in, day out, you're going through the fucking motions anyway, but when you also start to ascend, you also go through the very same houses again. Yeah, because it's always there. There's no other way you can experience life. You can't experience life outside of the houses. You can't experience life outside of the constellations. Yeah, outside of the archetypes, outside of the ecliptic, you can't, because the sun does not shine or does not travel outside the ecliptic band. Yeah, rule 1 of the Hermetic principles. Anyone? Okay, good. So I wanted to sort of like touch on a couple of things, and the first thing is, and with this part, I want to give a big shout out to Eric Dubé. He's a YouTube OG. He was one of the first people that started talking about Earth being not what we think it is. He did some really, really good work in the good days of YouTube. Him, Russian vids, and all those other guys back in the day. And there was another guy, Matheson Corollary. He also spoke about the constellations and stuff. Eric did a very good video on Jesus Christ being a depiction of the sun, which was very, very good. So some of the stuff I'm going to mention here ties back to some of the stuff I learned from him. I walk in the fucking footsteps of giants, and I always give credit where credit is due, because, you know, that's just the honorable thing to do. So with Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ is not a person. Yeah, he didn't come here. He didn't live here as a human being. If you think he did, you're not intelligent enough. You've not done the work. You've not done the research. Herodotus was a fucking plagiarist. We all know that. The Shroud of Turin is bullshit. So fucking go and do some research and learn something before you speak. Now, Jesus is actually just an allegory or metaphor for Christ consciousness. Yeah, the consciousness of God in physical form, when he actually reaches enlightenment or actualization. Yeah, that's what Christ is. That's what Jesus is. Yeah, okay, good. So Jesus, all throughout the depictions, is always depicted with a halo behind his head. Yeah, as if he's the sun. And everything that's said about him also reflects that same truth. Yeah, he's the light of the world. The literal light of the world is the sun, bro. The crown of thorns, which ties back to the corona of the sun. If you look at the sun, it pierces your eye as if it's thorns, right? He walks on water, or he walked on water. Go to any beach today at sunrise or sunset, you will see the sun walking on water. 12 disciples, or 13 if you include Magdalene, which also ties in with his the constellations, and each of them also having specific traits that line up with the constellations. Judas being the one that gave the kiss of death, which lines up with Scorpio, for example. What else? Yeah, the Son of God, S-U-N, same. Yeah, so it's Jesus basically is the embodiment of that. Now, in the scriptures, right, there are so many other characters that also reflected this very same story of the physical manifestation of consciousness in flesh, yeah, going through the journey, yeah. Sometimes we get snapshots, sometimes we don't get the full story because the Bible itself as a story has been edited and chopped and changed so many times, and shit like that. Bro, fun fact, do you know that the Bible has actually changed, that it doesn't actually talk about the 3 wise men anymore? It doesn't exist. Go and pick up a Bible today. It's changed. There's like some Mandela effect, bro. Some Matrix fucking glitch. Like, apparently now it's just the wise men. Like, come on. Do you know what I mean? So you can't rely on that fucking book for anything. Now, Samson was also one example of, a solar figure. Yeah. You know, he gains and loses his strength. You know, it's similar to the sun, gaining power and losing power, waxing and waning. You know, the sun waxes and wanes just like the moon. Yeah. Although that's from our perspective, because from outside of here, nothing happens. Okay, cool. Moses is also another solar figure because his journey mirrors the sun's path, including crossing the Red Sea, which is the Milky Way, and spending 40 years in the wilderness, which is the sun's exile. Yeah. In the underworld, or when the sun actually loses power, and also bringing divine law. Yeah. Cosmic order. Yeah. The balance between light and darkness. Joseph is another one. He had 12 brothers, much like the sun among the 12 signs, much like Jesus with his disciples. Noah's Ark could also represent the solar cycle and the zodiac wheel, with the animals as well. The animals always represent the signs. Yeah. Jesus was always born in a manger. Animals. Yeah. Cool. The 12 tribes of Israel also clearly mirror the zodiac. Jonah in the belly of the whale could also represent the sun in the belly of the earth when the sun gets consumed by nightfall, or when the sun actually loses its power. And constellation wise, there's also a constellation which is the 14th constellation in the ecliptic, but people don't want to accept it. It's Cetus, the whale. Yeah. So that's another one, but that's another story for another day. So that's just a summary of some of them. Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at the Bible in terms of the characters, I would say probably about, and this is just a guesstimate from just my knowledge of the book, I'd say probably about 60% of the biblical narrative contain astrological or solar allegories. Yeah. I'm pretty sound on that. Who else? We can look at things like the Passover, which is the festival that celebrates the sun's emergence from the southern signs, marking the transition from winter to spring and the promise of renewed life. Jacob and Joseph in Egypt. Jacob's time with Joseph in Egypt also symbolizes the sun's position in the southern signs during the winter. Yeah. So yeah, that's also another example. We can also think about, what else? We can also even mention the virgin birth. Yeah. Because Jesus' birth to the Virgin Mary corresponds with the sun's birth in the constellation of Virgo, which I already told you in a previous video represents the house of bread, Bethlehem. Crucifixion and resurrection, I've already touched on that. What else? Oh, Solomon. Solomon's another one. So Solomon, his name itself is Sol, is soul or sun. Yeah. So soul or solar. Yeah. So the very essence, what we call our essence, the soul, is derived from the word solar. If you don't know, go and look it up. It's facts. Because sol in Latin actually refers to the sun. Yeah. And his name actually shows that he is a physical representation of the sun. Yeah. And he has a lot of wisdom and a lot of light. And, if you think about it, his wisdom parallels the sun's role as a source of illumination and enlightenment. He's a very enlightened being, right? But he also loses energy when he goes into a specific house. Yeah. I'll talk about that one day. Remind me. And, one of the things he did was to construct the temple. Yeah. So the building of his temple can be seen as symbolizing the establishment of order and light, which is similar to the sun's path, bringing structure to time and seasons. Yeah. So it's not a physical thing. A lot of these things are not physical. Yeah. Samson, I touched on it, but you can look at Samson's uncut hair as the solar rays, because his might was linked to his hair, which symbolizes the sun's potent rays growing stronger from winter to summer. And Delilah can be symbolized as Virgo, and she deceives Samson, right? And she's associated with the constellation Virgo. And as the sun moves into Virgo around September, it marks the weakening of the sun's power, because from September, the sun actually starts to lose power, right? And that's similar to when Delilah cuts his hair. That's also another allegory, yeah? Then he's imprisoned and, he's captured and he's blinded by the Philistines. And it represents the sun's kind of diminished lights during the winter. And, he eventually kind of regains power and he destroys the temple, which parallels the sun's resurgence after the winter solstice, overcoming darkness. So that's another story. So there are so many different parallels, bro. So many of them, like so many. And we can start to look at even some of the other solar deities like Mithras, Dionysus, what's the other one? Krishna, who else? It's another one. And they all have similar stories, right? They're either born to a virgin, they had 12 followers, some of them were born in rocks and shit like that. Like, it's all the same story, bro. So don't waste your time with religion. I've always told you, religion is a waste of time because you are worshiping something that's outside of you that you created. The power itself is within you, yeah? And the power inside of you does not need worship. It really doesn't. It just needs you to be authentic. It needs you to be real. It needs you to actually know your purpose. It needs you to expand in awareness, come to the realization of what you are, bro. So that's just the way it is, bro. So yeah, I'd say we've gone 3 for 3. I made some notes on Krishna and stuff. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Hold on. Oh yeah, you're in luck. I found the notes. So basically, Krishna, which is he's associated with Hinduism, again, is the same concept. They're worshipping a sun deity. It's not a physical person or physical being. Don't kid yourself. His birth was divine, similar to Jesus Christ. He was born to a virgin called Devaki. The sun was born at the winter solstice, Capricorn. Similar to the sun being born at the winter solstice, basically. So it's the same thing, yeah? There was a threat to him at birth because King Cancer sought to kill him, much like Herod in Jesus' story, yeah? But Herod and Cancer literally represent darkness, yeah? Darkness wanting to kill the light, yeah? In physical form. That's all it is. It symbolizes that. His miracles and teachings. So Krishna, like Jesus, or like the sun, brings divine wisdom and nourishes life, yeah? And his death and return, he's killed by an arrow, yet his spirit lives on, symbolizing the sun setting, but always returning, yeah? Now, if you look at Mithras, and the religion of Mithraism, which is found in Persia and Rome, or which was found in Persia and Rome, he was born from a rock, which represents the sun emerging from darkness. Slaying of the bull represents the sun's movement into Aries, marking the beginning of a new cycle. It was worshipped on Sundays, like Jesus. Mithras was linked to the sun and was celebrated on December 25th, aligning with the winter solstice rebirth, yeah? So, again, it's not really a real person, it's the sun. Dionysus from Greek mythology, again, another divine birth. He's the son of Zeus and the mortal woman, much like the sun being born into the material world. He also had a death and resurrection. He was dismembered and reborn, symbolizing the seasonal death of the sun in winter and its return in spring. He also turned water into wine. This is a miracle that we often attribute to Jesus Christ, but it represents the transformation of solar energy into sustenance. Yeah. Another one is Osiris. So he also experienced death and resurrection. He was killed by Set, darkness, and the key is in Set's name. Yeah, the sun does what? Set. So Set kills the sun. Yeah, and that's what we call sunset. Yeah, and later he's resurrected by Isis, mirroring the sun's daily cycle and annual rebirth. The ruler of the underworld. The sun dies at night and reigns in the underworld before rising again. Okay? There is no underworld. It's just that when we don't see it, we assume there's gone under the world. But it's due to our limits in perception and the way our eyes work. Then there's Jesus Christ, but I've spoken about him. The parallels to the zodiac. So winter solstice in Capricorn is the birth of the sun. Krishna, Mithras, and Jesus all share this. Pisces season, Jesus is the fisher of men. He begins his ministry. Spring equinox, Aries, the sun conquers darkness. Mithras slays the bull. Jesus enters Jerusalem. Summer, which is in the house of Leo, is the peak strength of the sun, and this is a symbol of divine kingship. Then the fall equinox, Libra, Scorpio, Ophiuchus, is when he's betrayed, decline, and death. Yeah. So Osiris is dead, Jesus' crucifixion all fall into this. Then there's the winter, where Sagittarius and Capricorn is when the sun is reborn. So all these solar deities reflect the sun's annual journey through the zodiac. Yeah. Its birth, trials, death, and resurrection, teaching that life, like the sun, follows cycles of renewal, and that's exactly what your life is also about. Yeah, it's basically it. Any questions? Let me know. Let's expand the conversation, but recognize what you are and where you are and how to play the game.